Well, Tom, the countdown reaches the top 10. This is game number 10. It's game 1 of the 1988 World Series. Everybody knows who ended it for the Dodgers. Here's the guy who started it for the A's.
That's right. And, Bob, if it's a big game, we know Dave Stewart wants the ball.
Still got the glare going. If you're not all bailing out at home, stay with us for game number 10.
You're looking for Kirk Gibson, and there is no Gibson. And it hits Sachs on the helmet. Back goes Parker, way back. It is gone. Grand slam home run for Jose Canseco. And Dennis the Menace is on his way to the mound. And look who's coming up. And with 2 out, you talk about a roll of the dice. This is it.
Dodger Stadium filling up before Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas along with Marv Albert. First item of business, Kirk Gibson will not play for the Dodgers. Bothered by the right knee and the left hamstring, the knee more so. But in any case, he won't even be introduced tonight. We assume that means he's not available for so much as pinch hitting duty. Mickey Hatcher moves from first base to left field. Franklin Stubbs will start at first. Kirk Gibson out for the Dodgers.
Ah, but young Bob, first rule of broadcasting and maybe managing in the big leagues, never assume.
I thought that was just part of the setup. That's a good one.
If only I knew. If only I was ever that prescient. Dave Stewart, as we mentioned, joins us. And Kirk Gibson, who these days is the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, will join us later to talk about the 9th inning. We'll have him by satellite. We'll have Dave up until that point. Your Oakland A's team had won 104 games during the regular season. This is the first of 3 consecutive pennants for Tony La Russa, the Bash brothers, and a pitching staff headed by you. You won 20 games 4 consecutive times. You guys swept the Boston Red Sox 4 straight in the LCS. There was no division series then. Heavily, heavily favored against the Dodgers.
I thought we were going to win. I thought this was going to be, I wouldn't say easy, but I thought we were going to march in there and do what we had done to everybody else, which is, I mean, play hard and, you know, try to get it done in about 5 games, 6 games most.
Dave, did you walk in thinking Game 1 was especially important? Because Oral Hershiser, who was Mr. 1988 that year, has the ball in Game 2. And you're in Dodger Stadium. Any more importance on Game 1?
I wasn't thinking so much about Oral and his accomplishments for the year versus just getting off to a good start, you know, setting the pace in the first game. We were a ball club that pretty much all year. I don't think we lost very many series against, you know, any club that we had played against. And, you know, Tony had always said that, you know, getting off on the good foot, winning that first game is an important game. And we had practiced that all season long.
What did it mean to you that you were facing your old team, the Dodgers?
You know, I had been so far removed from that situation, at least it seemed like it, that I never even thought about it, that they were my old team, the team that the organization that I had grown up in. That part never really played a factor for me. And, you know, I was still an old school type guy where didn't really mix and mingle with the opponents. And so it was really just old business for me, just going out and trying to put my best foot forward.
All right, let's take a look at the lineups for this first game at Dodger Stadium, 1988 World Series. We start with Tony La Russa's A's. And as you look up and down this lineup, it hasn't quite become what it would be. Rickey Henderson is not there at this point. He had 4 different stints as a member of the Oakland A's, but at that point he was with the Yankees. So Carney Lansford is at the top. But it's still pretty imposing, especially when you consider it against the Dodger lineup. Take a look at the Dodger lineup. And for part of this World Series, Mike Marshall, who is in there now for this first game, who had 20 homers and was their RBI leader, Mike Marshall missed some games during the series, at which point McGuire and Canseco, each individually, had more home runs than the entire lineup that Tommy Lasorda put on the field for those games.
Yeah, other than Mike Marshall, there's nobody in that Dodger lineup who hit more than 10 home runs. Gibson's not in there now. So, Dave, when you looked at the lineup, you saw Gibson wasn't in it. What's your plan of attack of how you're going to pitch to this lineup?
Well, still stay aggressive. You know, my game was first pitch fastball, try to control the inside part of the plate. You know, if I got ahead in the count, give them 2 pitches with the forkball and go back to the fastball. Just stay dominant with the fastball, command the fastball, stay on the inside part of the plate. That was my game.
You had 2 MVPs, at least in uniform. No one thought Gibson was going to play. He was the MVP. He was all torn up, and it reached the breaking point for him when he tried to make a diving play at Shea Stadium during the LCS, and he was just hobbling around, so didn't think that he'd be available. Of course, Jose Canseco was the MVP of the American League that year, becoming the first 40-40 man in the middle of your lineup.
He had a good year. He had a real good year. I mean, when people spoke about excuse me, how well he played offensively that year. He was actually a very good defensive player for us that year. He did a great job with everything that he had. It was a really, really good year for him.
And when you sit down before this game, before the series, and talk about the Dodgers, how much time do you spend on Gibson? And what do you say about him?
If Gibson was gonna face me, if I happen to face him, then I have to go about my business with him the same way I did with anybody, and try to dominate and stay hard on an inside part of the plate and control that part of it and go away to get some outs if I have to.
Let's take a look at the guy who is going to oppose you, Tim Belcher. Here's the pitching pairing. You were 21-12. As I said, you won 24 consecutive times during that great stretch for the Oakland A's. Tim Belcher was 12-6 for the season, ERA under 3, and he won 2 games against the Mets in the LCS.
But he is a rookie. He's only the 9th rookie ever to start a Game 1 of a World Series. So if you look at the experience factor, Dave, I'm not sure if you ever look at who you're matched up against. I know sometimes you did when it was another ace out there.
I did with Roger.
Exactly. But do you feel like, hey, I'm going up against a rookie. This is my game.
I didn't think about that either. I try to look at ball clubs and who their lineup and who's in the lineup. The opposing pitcher, I always felt that we'd always have an edge. I thought that when clubs came to see our ball club, or when we were doing batting practice and doing our thing, that a lot of the opposing teams stayed out to watch us, you know, perform during batting practice, and I thought that we'd start a game with an edge with our offense. My job was to try to figure out how to get their offense out.
You started off with an edge walking off the bus with the size of the players on your team. You know, whether they were packing shoulder pads and helmets or bats and balls.
Well, you know what? During, I think, the following year's LCS, between the A's and the Toronto Blue Jays, I was doing the games with Tony Kubek. And I remember saying, kind of innocently then, I don't think there's ever been a baseball team with as many big, strong guys as these Oakland A's, and I rattled them off. We now know that at least some of them were juiced. Did you know or suspect that when you were their teammate?
I did not know that, no. And I didn't suspect it. I think Jose, which, you know, it was talked about from the minor leagues on that he was a possible user, but Mac, I never thought about it, not once.
And of course, as we see McGuire, as we will in just a moment, he's a big, rangy guy. He's a strong guy, but he's obviously much leaner than he would be later in his career when he became a record-setting home run hitter. Now, before we
considered him to be skinny. I thought he was just tall and skinny with big forearms at that time.
All right, as we get to the beginning of the ball game, little-known fact. Yes, Gibson ended it, but Gibson also started it because Debbie Gibson sang the national anthem at Dodger Stadium. We're not going to play that for you. Top of the first, Tim Belcher on the mound for the Dodgers. Carney Lansford leads things off for the A's. Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola set it up.
On the mound, a rookie to start Game 1 of the World Series. And in case you're interested, the 9th rookie to ever start the opening game of a World Series, Tim Belcher, a 12-game winner during the regular year. Big kid from Sparta, Ohio.
As we mentioned, Carney Lansford, past batting champion, is the leadoff man. Ricky Henderson had already done great things as a member of the Oakland A's, but at this point in his career, he's a Yankee. Lansford thought he had the walk, but on the 3-2 pitch, called out looking by Doug Harvey.
He ain't swinging very many bad pitches, I can tell you that. So for me, if Carney didn't swing, it was a ball.
Big chopper up the middle, and that'll be the base hit into center. So Dave Henderson collects the first hit of the day. And now the big man. All eyes on Jose Canseco.
Well, that's a big hit right there, because now you've got to pitch to Canseco instead of the bases empty. You got to pitch to him, or at least attempt to.
0-1. In on the hands again. That's where they're going to live, and it might have gotten that hand. Let's see, he's going to be awarded first base.
They were going to pitch him tight, and here comes Lasorda now. He wants.
Tell you what, Tony, he was livid. He hated for the opposing pitchers to come in on our guys like that. I mean, that was a pet peeve of his. He really watched the game closely in that part of it.
This is the Dodgers' game plan. They're packed with right-handed power pitchers, Hershiser, Belcher, Leary, and they want to pitch hard and in on the right-handers in the Oakland lineup, and he's establishing that right off the bat.
McGuire draws a walk to load the bases, but prior to that, Parker had flied out. So the bases are loaded now with 2 outs. Parker was really the only dangerous left-handed bat in the lineup, and so La Russa had him in between Canseco and McGuire in the cleanup spot.
And it's a high fly ball to left center. It's playable. Shelby is there. And the A's lead.
So you're going to go to the mound without a lead that you might have had. Your teammates strand 3.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I
Well,
was really looking forward to it.
When
Actually,
you
I was kind of fired up.
yeah, when you
actually.
see Canseco get hit like that, I know
I
you
was
filed
fired
that
up.
away.
I was fired up. Along with Tony, I hated guys coming in on my hitters, and I really felt it was my job to protect them.
And it hit Sachs on the helmet. And immediately a hit batter. We're watching.
I told Saxy I was going to do that the day before. He told me he would take me deep. He says, I'm going to take you deep. I said, I'm going to hit you in your neck.
But Dave, that's the leadoff hitter.
Didn't matter. This wasn't a factor of Canseco being hit. This was a factor of Steve Sachs coming to my face the day before, telling me that he was going to take me deep.
Mickey Hatcher, a contact hitter, and the Dodgers could put a play on here. A strike. And time, they called a balk by the third base umpire, Darrell Cousins of the American League.
Now, how about this balk here? This was the year of the balk. In 1988, they cracked down on balks. They set the all-time record 2 months into the season.
Needless to say, I end up taking the major league record for balks and still have it.
And a contact hitter at the plate in Hatcher. Waiting his turn on deck, the Dodger RBI leader, Mike Marshall. 0-1. Fastball hit into left field and deep. Back goes Parker, way back. It is gone.
I mean, for me, you gotta make him hit the ball. Mickey Hatcher, you make him hit the ball. I was not expecting him to hit the ball out the ballpark. I wanted him to put the ball in play. And he ended up hitting a pitch that was, to me, right down the middle of the plate, and he went deep.
He hit 1 home run in 202 plate appearances during the regular season. That was the first of 2 homers he hit in this World Series.
Thanks for telling me that, Bob.
Now hitting Sachs cost you.
Yeah, it did, but I never thought that we wouldn't come back, and I never thought that I wouldn't settle down and hold them, to give us an opportunity to win this game. Most games, especially with our lineup, you can't think that we're going to be shut out. You can't think that teams are going to hold us to 1 run. And so, obviously, I'm not out there to try to give up 2 or 3 runs in the first inning, but 2 or 3 runs in the first inning is not normally going to kill us.
And how about Hatcher? He looked like Carl Lewis running around the bases. I'm surprised you didn't hit the next guy.
No, Hatch and we played together in the minor leagues, and he's a high-strung guy, very, very animated. He's a jokester, a prankster, good teammate, and I would expect that from Hatch.
Now, it's a World Series, so everybody's keyed up to begin with. But now, Canseco, the reigning MVP, has been hit. You have immediately retaliated, and you've already said you didn't need that. You were going to throw at Sachs anyway. Has the atmosphere been ratcheted up a little bit now?
Well, it started off. I mean, we got off the plane coming into Los Angeles at the airport, and we were being egged on by the media And you know, Lasorda, with his antics, had it all revved up and ready to go. And so, you know, it was an emotional World Series from day one, from the workouts to the first pitch to the last pitch. It was going to be a fired up and go at 'em World Series.
And Lasorda, of course, would resort to almost anything
He
to
did
get
too.
his guys ready.
He did too. I mean, he would tell the players, I remember playing for him, he would tell us, that guy over there, he's talking about your sick brother who's in bed. What are you going to do about that? You can't let those guys get away with that. So he knows how to motivate a team.
You know, later on in that World Series, before Game 4, with both Gibson and then Marshall out, the Dodgers fielded a team which, pitching aside, would have finished in the second division any year. And of course, you guys were the Bash brothers. So I just noted that on the pregame show. And the Dodgers were already back in the visitors' clubhouse in Oakland watching. And Tommy was friendly with me like he was with most members of the media. But he'd use anything at his disposal. And he pointed up at the clubhouse TV and he said, "See that? Costas thinks we have no chance." And then he started a chant. This is by his own testimony. Kill Costas, kill Costas. Now, that might have been good reason for that, but that wasn't one of the good reasons. All right. And then the game is about to begin, and I can't get off the field before the national anthem. So Hershiser, who's going to start the next night, is at the end of the line. So I'm standing there, don't want to be disrespectful. I come to attention during the anthem. Hershiser's got his cap over his heart, and he says out of the corner of his mouth, looking down at me, "Boy, Tommy's really got the boys cranked up in there based on what you said. You're public enemy number one." All right? So the press apparently gets word of this. They asked Lasorda about it after the game. Before Game 5, I'm in La Russa's office because Tony thinks that I've arranged this with Lasorda, that this is Lasorda's greatest grand plan. The whole thing is a setup. I'm like, Tony, come on. I got nothing to do with this. You're losing the World Series 3 games to 1. You shouldn't be worrying about me.
And this is a compliment to the Dodgers. You're right, though. It probably was one of the weakest hitting lineups ever to win a World Series. Now, that's a credit to Lasorda and to those guys who stepped in.
When you say it's one of the worst lineups, I was sitting here thinking Jeff Hamilton. Until I saw the lineup, I didn't even remember who Jeff Hamilton was, their third baseman in the starting game. I had no idea who that guy was, and he got those guys to play. Whether it was throwing a card or flipping a coin, everything that he did worked well.
Well, we're talking about Game 1, or at least we're getting back now to Game 1. After 1 inning, the Dodgers are up on the Hatcher home run. Coming up, one of the Bash brothers does something he's never done before. We head now to the top of the second. The Dodgers lead at 2-0. Tim Belcher back to work. Glenn Hubbard leading off.
And you know, Belcher did get out of that first inning, Bob, but he did need 28 pitches. He's still really trying to find his rhythm, find the plate.
And that's probably hammered into left field for a base hit.
So the A's left the bases loaded in the first. They get the leadoff man on in the second. After Walt Weiss strikes out, look who's coming up. Dave Stewart in an unfamiliar spot.
I'm an athlete, man.
Well, Dave, come on. I know you're a good hitter for a pitcher, but you haven't hit in 5 years.
I'm an athlete.
I was expecting a bunt here, even with 1 out.
You couldn't afford. Look at that guy. That guy shouldn't be bunting. Those guys are expecting me to get a hit.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Dave Stewart.
How about that take?
That's
Look
a pretty good eye.
That's a take. That's a hitter's type take. That's not a pitcher's take. That's how a hitter makes a take. That's how you take it right there.
3-2 to Dave.
And that's how you take
There
ball
you go.
4. So
Here's a page out of the Ricky Henderson book right there. You see that flip of the bat and stride down to first base? That's an athlete, man.
And here it is, only the top of the second, but Tim Leary, 17-game winner during the regular season, is up and throwing because Belcher had to get out of a bases-loaded jam in the first. Now he's got 2 on with 1 out in the second. He's leading 2-0, but he's on thin ice.
I really thought that was odd, though, during the course of the game. When you look back on it that early in the game to get a guy up, I really thought that was odd.
And he's walked in to load the bases again.
He got out of it very fortunate in that first inning because Steinbach had a pitch to hit and he just didn't hit it.
And now with 2 down, the biggest confrontation of the night. The bases loaded and Jose Canseco. This is a ball club. The Oakland A's scored over 800 runs this year. And there's a drive to center. Back goes Shelby to the wall. It is gone. Grand slam home run for Jose Canseco.
And look where he hit it. Over the center field fence, a line drive. It didn't get up, it didn't get down, it just got out.
That was big for us right there. And, you know, as I told you earlier, I was expecting that we'd be able to score some runs on this guy.
First career grand slam for Canseco, who had 42 homers and 40 stolen bases in the course of winning the MVP award in 1988.
Now that's styling, Dave.
You're right.
You see where that ball hit? It ricocheted off the center field camera.
I think it dented it, actually.
It did. It did, in fact. The cameraman is a guy who still works at NBC named Jimmy Mott. Before Game 2, Canseco autographed the camera above the dent left by his home run ball.
I'm still trying to figure out. He switched bats. His first time up, he gets hit by a pitch and never swung, never used the bat. He switched bats. I guess he went to his grand slam bases loaded bat.
I asked him, I said, did you get all of that? He said he didn't.
No.
I believe him.
I believe him.
I thought he got
Mickey
that one pretty good.
Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Jose Canseco, the only three to hit a World Series grand slam and win an MVP. Pretty good hardware he's got.
Remember the home run he hit in the playoffs the next year in Toronto into the upper deck at Sky Dome? Now he got all of that one.
He said he didn't get all of that
Oh,
one.
come on.
All right, the Dodgers go down quietly in the bottom of the second. So after 2, it's 4-2 A's. Coming up, a Kirk Gibson sighting. And Dave Stewart discusses his pregame eating habits.
I can't wait for this.
Oh, lack of.
And now the Phillies lead in this ball game 23-22.
Here comes Snow. Here's the throw home. It is in time, and Snow is out at the plate.
Maddox going, it's over. The Phillies win it. 8-7.
Ortiz into deep right field. Back is Sheffield. We'll see you later tonight.
1-1 pitch. Ground ball right side. Got a sneak through. Here comes Gomez around third. The throw to the plate by Thomas. Not in time. Twins head to New York. They win the American League Central.
And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Edgar Martinez. Swung on and line down the left field line for a base hit. Here comes Joy. Here is Junior to third base. They're going to wave him in. The throw to the plate will be late. The Mariners are going to play for the American League Championship. I don't believe it.
Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back and
Touch a ball, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
The 0-1 pitch.
A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series. See ya! See ya! See ya! He is Mr. November.
Deep to left. Yastrzemski will not get it. It's a home run. A 3-run home run for Bucky Denton. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
So after a quick look at the first half of the 20-game countdown, we resume with game number 10. It's the first game of the 1988 World Series. Dave Stewart is here with us. Kirk Gibson coming up later. We move now to the top of the third. The A's lead it on the Canseco Grand Slam 4-2. Tim Belcher is finished. Pinch hit for in the bottom of the second. So Tim Leary comes out of the bullpen, and he's on the hill as Terry Steinbach leads it off for the A's. And once again, Vin Scully.
3-2 the count to Terry Steinbach. Hit a fastball off the glove of Hamilton, deflected to Griffin, no play. And boy, I tell you, if you were a scout, write it down. Did he have a turn on an inside fastball?
So here's Leary on in relief, and this is going to become crucial because now Lasorda has had to go to his bullpen in the third inning, and these guys are going to have to hold on for a while and give the Dodgers a chance to come back.
And one thing Tommy liked to do, he wasn't afraid of using his starting pitchers out of the bullpen. You saw that in the NLCS with Hershiser, and he had versatile power pitchers from the right side that it could start and relieve, and Leary is key here.
Not a promising start for Leary as Hubbard gets another base hit. 2 on, nobody out.
Dave, you're real close to a knockout blow right here.
Yeah,
2 on, nobody out.
I'm hoping that we can put him away, to be honest.
Now, with all due respect, because you're on deck, Weiss is not going to sacrifice here.
No balls and 1 strike. And he lifts one to left center. Shelby and Hatcher. It's Hatcher to pick it off, and the run is hold.
And let's listen to Vin Scully tell us something about Dave Stewart.
You know, you talk about you want your ball players lean and hungry. Stewart never eats before he pitches. He says that he found that the nerves were too much for him, so he never eats. So we're looking at a hungry hitter.
I missed that pitch.
Night game. When was the last time you had eaten before the game?
It would be early morning. Early morning.
Nothing since breakfast.
Nothing since breakfast.
Boy, the guys must have stayed away from you, and that post-game spread came out. You must have killed it.
Let's see if they have him bunting again, despite the 2 strikes. Nope. And he's gone anyway. That's strange.
Couldn't pull the trigger.
That's what you call paralysis pitch right there.
1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball chopped to the left of Griffin. Alfredo on the bag to win the inning. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 left. At the end of 2.5, A's 4, Dodgers 2.
As we go to the bottom of the third, our first Kirk Gibson sighting.
Steve Sachs takes ball 1. If you missed it, Gibson was examined by Dodger team physician Dr. Frank Jobe. Diagnosed Gibson as having a sprain of the medial collateral ligament and surrounding tissue in his right knee. Fly ball to right field, and Canseco is there. 1 away. To conclude the Gibson report, the injury sustained in Game 7 of the League Championship Series. The knee was injected with xylocaine and cortisone. He'll be re-examined tomorrow, and his condition is day to day.
So at that point, Gibson is spending some time in the dugout. For much of the game, he was out of view and back in the clubhouse, and the universal assumption was maybe he can play later in the series, but not tonight.
Parker coming over near the line to backhanded for the out. And
It's a different position for Dave. You know, Dave had played right field all of his career. He didn't play very much left field for us during the course of the year. He DH'd and played right, but he played very little left field.
And, of course, we're in the National League ballpark, so there's no DH in this game.
Yep.
He's got to get out there in the field with the glove on.
Yep.
But it's the biggest hitter the Dodgers have now in the absence of Kirk Gibson, Mike Marshall, who struck out in the first inning. Breaking ball, line to third, and Carney Lansford speared it.
Karnak, Gold Glove, third baseman. That was a great play right there. Saved me.
So you guys have the lead at 4-2 at this point. You've missed some scoring opportunities, but you feel pretty good.
I'm settled right now. I'm in the game. My body is feeling good, making pitches like I want to make them, making them where I want to make them. They're swinging early in the counts for me, which is always helpful to a pitcher. We've got a lead, which I love, and I think that we're in cruise. Not necessarily, when I say cruise, I don't mean that in the sense that we've let down, but when I say cruise, we're in control.
Well, Dave, a lot of people today would be really surprised to understand that year, including the World Series, you went over 300 innings in the season. Now, you did sweep the ALCS, had a few days off. Where are you physically at this point in the year?
Physically, I felt great. I felt absolutely outstanding at that point. You know, I don't recall ever having any problems during the year, and I definitely didn't have any problems in the playoffs of the World Series. I felt great.
Up next, a blunder on the bases, and on a different play, Tony La Russa wants an explanation. We'll tell you about all of it when we come back. All right, through 3, 4-2 Oakland, to the top of the fourth. Dave Henderson leads it off against Tim Leary. Again, Vin Scully.
We go to the fourth inning. Dave Henderson, Jose Canseco, and Dave Parker. 4-2 Oakland, and one slice down the right field line in the corner, bouncing and touched by a fan for the ground rule double. So Henderson is 2 for 3.
I love this guy. Dave Henderson can always make things happen. You got to love him as a teammate.
Big chopper to the hole, flagged by Griffin, who wisely goes to Sachs.
Hindu, what are you doing?
What was Dave Henderson thinking there?
I just asked you, Hindu, what were you doing? He wasn't thinking there.
You still love him as a teammate?
I still love him, but he wasn't thinking right there. That's against all the rules of baseball right there. That ball's hit to the shortstop, going towards third base. He just didn't react.
And with nobody out, and there's no way they throw Canseco out from the hole on that play, so really did the Dodgers a favor. And now this one gets away. Canseco advances to third.
It looks like you're in good shape, but
Dave Parker will be out because he did not run in the 40-foot lane.
this is a good call on the umpires here. I mean, clearly he impedes the throw. Parker is not in the running lane.
But
I would agree with Bobby Cox. The running lane is one of the worst rules in baseball, but we have it. You have to get in there.
I was about to say, how often do they even call that play? They don't call that play. Most of the time, we're taught as pitchers to throw right at the hitter's back, too. So.
Oh, he's way inside. Way inside.
He is right on the line. Actually, he's not way inside. He's right on the line. He's not in the lane, though.
Well, Vin and Joe conclude that it was a good call. You perhaps had a different
They're
perspective.
Dodger broadcasters. What else would they say?
Nobody more down the middle on a national broadcast than Vin.
Got him. No runs, a hit, 2 left, and it's still 4-2 Oakland.
A lot of guys on the bases. Canseco cleared them with the grand slam, but you've left, by my calculations, 8 men on base through your first 4 times at bat.
Yeah, but we've had him on the ropes. We've had him on the ropes. We feel that we've got him on the ropes. We've got people on the bases. It's just a matter of time is what we're thinking as a ball club. I know that's what I'm thinking as the starting pitcher out there, that as long as we've got base runners, we've got a chance. With our lineup, if we've got guys on base, we've got an opportunity to go deep if you make a mistake, which is how we played most of the year.
But Dave, the opportunities are going by, but I have to imagine you're probably thinking you'd like more runs, but you have enough here at 4-2.
Well, I was thinking that. Dave Henderson made a comment earlier in the year because I jokingly, and I do say that seriously, jokingly complained that they never scored runs on the days that I pitched. And he said, well, be careful what you ask for. So in this particular case, you know, I thought 4 runs would be enough to hold it, especially under those circumstances. I like, you know, postseason play, and I thought that 4 runs would be enough for me to take it home.
And coming up next, the Dodgers will creep a little bit closer.
4-2 Oakland, bottom of the 4th, and Dave Stewart ready to go back to work. And there it is. They just keep that ball away, and John keeps coming up empty. Fly ball to center field. Dave Henderson is there. That'll take care of Mike Socia. 2 out in the 4th inning. 0-2 the count to Jeff Hamilton, who grounded to short in the 2nd inning. Dave Stewart roughed up in the 1st inning, but he has settled down since, allowed just 1 hit. Half swing. See you later for Hamilton. The Dodgers tiptoe out of the 4th inning.
Strong 4th inning for our guest Dave Stewart. Neither team would score in the 5th, and in the top of the 6th, the A's went out in order. So we continue now with the bottom of the 6th. After Dave Stewart retires Mickey Hatcher on a lineout to lead things off, Mike Marshall is the hitter for the Dodgers.
And you had 2 strikes on him there, Dave.
Yeah, I didn't get that fork ball down. I left that pitch there for him. You know, I broke a golden rule. If you're going to make that pitch, you've got to get it down or you get it in the dirt. And I left it up for him. It was a good piece of hit, and he hit it to right field. He didn't try to pull it.
So the crowd here at Dodger Stadium has not had very much to cheer about since the 1st inning. But Marshall, a 1-out single. John Shelby, the batter. And there's a ground ball up the middle. Base hit. Marshall to second. He will hold there. The ball hit the top of the mound and almost flattened it.
I should have caught that ball.
was pretty sharply hit. How the heck were you going to catch that?
You hear me laughing. There's no way I could get that ball.
So here is Scioscia, better known these days as the Angels manager, then Lasorda's catcher for the Dodgers.
And he bangs it into left. Base hit. Here comes Marshall to score. Stopping at second is Shelby.
I've been pretty much away this whole inning. Never made the adjustment. They adjusted to me, and they started going away with the pitches that I was throwing away. So they changed their plan of hitting, and they ended up scoring a run.
And Scioscia, obviously a very smart player, very smart hitter. In fact, there were times he would tell Tommy Lasorda when to use a hit-and-run play. But, Dave, we saw the bullpen get up there.
I wasn't even.
I'm sure you didn't.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it. I felt that I was still in control of this game and would get out of it. I really did.
Well, they were within one and threatening for more, but Lansford turns that one into a double play off the bat of Jeff Hamilton, and you walk off clinging to a one-run lead.
It was that guy, Jeff Hamilton, that I just remembered again tonight. He came up at the right time.
I got to ask you about the bullpen, though. They're up in the bullpen. You didn't see them. But this is the year where Tony La Russa basically invented the modern bullpen. He used 5 guys 49 times or more. Had never happened before in baseball. That specialized bullpen. I know you're a guy, Dave, like to complete your games, but are you worried there? Maybe Tony's going to give the game to somebody else?
No, not at all. I had a few complete games. I'm not sure. Maybe
led the
14,
league. Had 14 of them.
15.
Led the league.
Yeah, I knew I had a lot of complete games. Tony's pattern for me is if the game was close, though we did have Eck down there, what he called, he put it this way, you earn your outs. As you earn your outs, you earn the right to be in the game. And so, if we're in the 6th inning, that's still not my time. I'm in the 7th, 8th inning. I might be thinking maybe, but in the 6th inning, that's not my time. I'm more of an 8 or 9 inning guy before he's getting ready to pull the trigger on me.
Just to set this for people, because after all, it's been going on 23 years here. You were at the top of that rotation, 4 consecutive 20-win seasons. You guys also had the former Dodger Bob Welch among your starters. Now, Hershiser's the ace for the Dodgers. Belcher, a rookie, doing pretty well. Leary, as we mentioned, won 17 games. But some of the viewers may be saying, what about Fernando? He was hurt. He was still a Dodger. He was hurt. John Tudor worked in the postseason, but he wound up walking off the mound when his arm just about blew up. So they really had nothing from the left side in terms of their starting rotation anymore.
Right, but you bring up the Oakland rotation and the bullpen, too. We talked so much about the Bash brothers and home run power. This team, I don't have to remind you, I know, led the league in ERA. I thought you were undersold a little bit as a team that had a very deep staff.
Our pitching staff, we were hidden by all the offense. A lot of people talked about the Bash brothers and the home runs, and we scored over 800 runs that year. We were always, as a pitching staff, underrated and not very well recognized. But we had a good starting rotation. Tony had it set really, really well. We were a good staff. He did mix and match our bullpen well. We had 2 righties, 2 lefties, and we had Eck as a closer. So we were a 10-man staff, which is unheard of in this day and time.
Okay, so it's 4-3 Oakland through 6 innings, Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. Back with game number 10 of the countdown of the 20 greatest games of the last 50 years, right after this break. Bob Costas with Tom Verducci, and Dave Stewart is still with us. We're saving Kirk Gibson for the 9th, but he will be here. In the top of the 7th of Game 1 of the 88 World Series, the A's got a leadoff walk, but they couldn't add to their 4-3 lead. Bottom of the 7th now, 2 out, nobody on. Dave is still on the hill. Steve Sachs is at the plate. Vin Scully at the mic.
On the hands, a shot off the glove, and Sachs fell down, leaving home, and he'll settle with a single.
So you hit Sachs his first time up to begin the game. He's gotten a couple of hits off you after that.
Yeah, Carney should have caught that ball.
So a 2-out single by Steve Sachs brings up Franklin Stubbs. 2 fly balls grounded out 0 for 3.
I take my chances on letting him go.
There he goes. The pitch, a strike. The throw down, he's stolen it.
Tommy Lasorda agreed with Garagiola.
Yeah, Tony should have called a pitch out there too, see?
Well, Tommy did start runners often in this game, and I think he knew with that lineup that he had a little underpowered.
Yeah,
had to start runners, make something happen.
They've got to try to produce some runs.
And there's a high fly ball into right field. Canseco going back under it and makes the play for the out.
I was never worried about that.
Oh, come on. That looked pretty good off the bat, Dave.
Never worried about it. That ballpark plays like Oakland, and at nights you've got to hit the ball to get it out of there.
In the top of the 8th, Alejandro Pena came out of the bullpen and held the A's in check. So now to the bottom of the 8th, and you're still working with just a 1-run margin.
Fouled away, 1-2. We mentioned Gibson. If you were in the ballpark with binoculars, your first thought would be late in the game, is Gibson in the Dodger dugout? And the answer would appear to be no. Got him on the inside corner. As you look, you see Fernando Valenzuela, and you're looking for Kirk Gibson. And there is no Gibson. The man who was the spearhead of the Dodger offense throughout the year, who saved them in the League Championship Series, will not see any action tonight for sure.
As Mike Marshall steps in, Vin has said he will not see any action, speaking of Gibson, tonight for sure. And he can't be faulted for saying that. That's what everybody thought.
I think you're all in on it. I think La Russa was right.
See, Gibby wouldn't have come out of that dugout if I'd have came out for the 9th. He'd have still been in that dugout.
Well, here's something interesting. You're in the midst of working a 1-2-3 bottom of the 8th. You're going to get Shelby here on a nice play by Canseco to close the inning out. You wanted to close the game out, right?
There was no way I thought he was going to take me out of this game. There was no way. This game is a typical game for me during the course of the year where he says, okay, you go back out for the 9th. As you get outs, you'll stay out there. As long as you're getting out, you'll stay out there. You got the right to complete this game. That's how I completed games. He'd say, you get an out, you stay.
Well, Dave, at this point, I know pitch count, not a big deal for you. You're at 114. You just cruise through the 8th inning. You look strong. Take me into the dugout then when you come in there. What does Tony say to you?
He didn't say anything at first. At first, I walked in, put my hat and my cap and my glove down as I always do, reach for my towel, grab my coat, and if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me right, we had one out before he came to me and he said that, you're done. And when he said that I was done, I looked at him puzzled, like, almost as if to say, what do you mean you're taking me out? It was that kind of a look. And he said, you know, you're good. We've got Eck down there and X coming in. And I once again, I looked at him and I asked him, I said, man, I'm fine. I'm feeling great. I can finish this game. He then said with a little stronger tone that X in the game. And I asked him once again, why are you taking me out of the game? And his final words to me is that Eck needs to work. And after he said that, I grabbed my cap and I walked away.
You know, when you think about it, even though you didn't agree, that makes some sense because you had swept the Red Sox, so there are several days in between while you're waiting for the World Series to start, and the Mets and the Dodgers are still completing their business. And La Russa might have been thinking, if we don't win tomorrow night, if we don't get a lead, there's another off day between games 2 and 3. I might never get Eckersley into a game for more than a week.
Yeah, he's got 5 days of rest coming into Game 1 of the World Series. Was unhittable against the Red Sox. 6 shutout innings.
4 saves in the series.
But you said you picked up your hat and your glove. What happened? Did you go back in the clubhouse at that point?
I went in the clubhouse and put it on ice, put my arm on ice. And the truth is, when you're in the moment and, you know, you've got a bunch of complete games under your belt and a lot of innings pitched underneath your belt, in that particular moment when you consider yourself to be the leader in your staff, I'm not thinking about Dennis. It was no different, really, than any of the other games that I had completed during the course of the year. I never looked to Eck to finish games for me. I wanted to finish games. I believe that if you pitch the innings, the closer you get to the last out, the better chance you have to complete a game, the better chance you have to win a game. And that's my train of thought, and that's the way I went about my business for that whole season.
So, Dave, I've got to ask you this then. Bottom of the 9th inning, are you still icing? How do you watch the bottom of the 9th inning? And what are you feeling watching it?
I was still stewing. and I had my arm on ice. I was in the trainer's room listening at the inning as it just kind of unfolded. And at a certain point, I just didn't want to see what the outcome was going to be. Things weren't starting to, they weren't working well for us at that point. Eck doesn't walk very many people. He walked a guy, and it just wasn't working well.
If you had faced Kirk Gibson, how would you have worked him?
As I did everybody else. With Gibby, you know, I would have probably have started him off with a fastball down and away, and hope, you know, with a little run on it that he'd swing first pitch, but knowing in the ninth inning he probably wouldn't. So I'd start him off away, come back with something on the inside part of the plate, and hopefully get ahead in the count. If I get ahead in the count, scouting reports are going to say that he goes with his forkball, but I felt that my forkball was a good pitch for me, and if you foul enough of them off, then I'm going to come back with the fastball on the inside part of the plate and put you away somehow.
So as you're getting that kind of bad feeling as the ninth inning does unfold with Eck on the mound, did you watch the Gibson at bat on a television?
I only listened to it. I never saw one pitch that inning. I listened to the whole thing by radio. And
do you recall if it was the local Dodger broadcast, which would have been Ross Porter, I guess, or was it the national radio broadcast where Jack Buck had a memorable call of Gibson's homer?
It was Ross Porter. I was listening to the Dodger broadcast.
And what was your reaction?
It was a bad feeling. I mean, it was a bad feeling. I felt bad. I felt bad for Eck. I felt bad for the team. But I have to be honest, that losing game one in that fashion where, I mean, Eck was our guy, and pretty much his success rate and saves was high. He had a high percentage of saving games. And, you know, when you beat on our closer, a guy of his stature, I thought, man, we're in a little bit of trouble here.
So I'm guessing, Dave, you have eventually seen the home run.
I have. I've seen it now probably more times than I want to see it.
But you were two give no quarter type competitors. You and Kirk Gibson, I wouldn't have imagined, at least when you were opponents, that you would have been too pally-wally about it.
No, we weren't. But I tell you one thing that I regret in 16 years of playing is that I never got a chance to play with him. I watched him from across the field when I was in the American League and he was with the Tigers. And you talk to people about him and what he brought to the field every day. Just that passion and that desire and the roughness and the toughness. You like guys like that on your team. You want to play with guys like that.
So lots of respect for Kirk Gibson, deservedly so. The ninth inning belonged to Gibson, so when we come back, Kirk will join us by satellite. We will say goodbye here to Dave Stewart. You're done after 8, just as you were that night, and you're leaving with a lead. So we thank you.
Thank you guys for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Of course, the Dodgers had to get through the top of the ninth to keep it close. Here's how they did it, and when we come back, Kirk Gibson will be here.
Got it. So he blows away Henderson, 1 out in the top of the ninth inning. 3-2 to Jose Canseco. Got it. Big swing or no? He came up empty. And here's McGuire. Lifted high and down the right field line. High enough for Marshall to get under it and foul ground. He had to come a long way. Nice play. No runs, 1 hit. And Dennis the Menace is on his way to the mound. On the mound, the MVP in the league championship series, Dennis Eckersley.
We go to the bottom of the ninth of Game 1 of the 1988 World Series at Dodger Stadium, the A's and the Dodgers, and as promised, Kirk Gibson, who has other duties to attend to now as the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, joins us by satellite. You had come to the Dodgers as a free agent from the Tigers. You'd already had a huge World Series moment for the '84 World Champions, the homer in Game 5 at Tiger Stadium off Goose Gossage. You become the MVP of the National League. Your stats were good, not great. But one of the reasons why you were the MVP was the way you helped to change the atmosphere in the Dodger clubhouse.
Yeah, well, when I came to the Dodgers, I was with the Tigers really my whole career before that, and under the late Sparky Anderson, and he was a real business-like guy and very serious and kind of like no screwing around, kind of ruled with an iron rule. And then we came to the Dodgers at spring training, and it was just a little different atmosphere. I was a little uncomfortable with that, and I remember one day we were doing bunt plays, and Pedro Guerrero picked up the ball and threw it down the right field corner, and everybody laughed, and I was like, gee, that's not funny. And I remembered the St. Louis Cardinals the previous year running the bases on the Dodgers like a Little League team. So, I was very uncomfortable with that. And, they had the famed eye black incident where Jesse Orozco put eye black in my hat before a game, and just not who I was. So we had a little team talk the next day, and I represented to them what I thought some of the things that we needed to work on from this point forward in spring training. And they did. We turned it around. And then we got into the season where nobody really was predicting that we would have any success. And we started having success, and the momentum built throughout the year. And we were kind of the underdog through the regular season, the playoffs against the Mets, and against the Oakland A's.
So, Tom, taking us up now to Game 1 of this World Series, Kirk has hit .290 with 25 homers, 31 stolen bases. He would become the MVP, but he's battling a series of injuries which really came to a head in the middle of the LCS against the Mets.
Well, that's right. He clearly helped change the culture of the Dodgers, but Kirk, no one was sure what you could do on the day of Game 1. Tell me how your body was feeling and take me through the day in terms of the medical attention that you got, and even during the game, whether you thought there was any shot of playing.
I got up that morning about 4:30 in the morning, and I started to walk across the floor. I said, it doesn't feel too bad. And then I jogged across the floor. I said, uh-oh, we might have a problem here. So I called our trainers early in the morning. I saw the doctor, and it just wasn't good, and they injected me another time. And actually, I'd hurt my other knee in the last game of that, the playoffs against the Mets. So I got a couple injections, and then I just knew I couldn't play. I knew I couldn't really overcome it, and I knew that we'd be a better team really without me in the regular lineup, starting lineup. And then as the game went on, just kind of sat there, was icing my legs on and off, and just in my shorts in the training room, and just to watch the game unfold and see that we were behind. Canseco hit a home run early in the game. As we got within a run here going into the last inning, I just knew we were getting down to it was myself, Mike Davis, and Dave Anderson on the bench, and I just looked and I just kind of had this dream in my mind that if Davis got on 8th, that I could hit 9th. So I just got up. I heard Vin Scully say that they kept panning the dugout and saying, "No Kirk Gibson, no Kirk Gibson." And he won't be playing tonight. And then finally I just said my ass, and I got up and threw my uniform on and got Mitch Poole, the bat boy, to set the tee up. And I said, go get Tommy. And Tommy came up there, and I just said, hey, hit Davis 8th. I'll hit for the pitcher. And so he told me to stay up there because he didn't want Oakland to see that I might come to the plate.
Kirk, I was standing in the corner of the dugout waiting to go on the field to do a post-game interview.
I remember that.
And I could hear you taking your swings. I couldn't see you, but I could hear the kind of grunts, that you'd hear the thwack of the bat against the ball, and So it was uncomfortable even to take practice swings, right?
Actually, my knees were pretty numb because I had ice bags. I had just taken them off, but I didn't have a very good foundation or base. It was basically swinging with my arms, but sometimes you just have the determination. You just got to do the best you can, and like I said earlier, and you have a tendency to think that you can't do the job in those situations, and I just kind of felt the emotion. I'd kind of brainwashed myself to say when I came out of that dugout, the fans would. I would have a great ovation, and the pain would go away.
All right, let's get to the inning because certain things had to happen to set this memorable moment up. Mike Scioscia is the leadoff man. Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola in the booth. Eckersley on the mound.
Ball 1.
Vinny's had 8 saves that were less than an inning. 21 saves.
And Kirk, at this point, you are in the batting cage taking swings?
Oh yeah, I'm there right now. I probably only took about maybe 20 swings total. Just trying to get my upper body loose and just hoping that somebody can get on base and that I can hit in the number 9 position.
1 out in the 9th, and young Jeff Hamilton coming up.
Things are going as planned for Oakland right now. X looking like he always does.
And there you are. You've appeared in the dugout now.
Yeah, I've appeared a little earlier than I was supposed to, but I said, hey, I'm coming out. I didn't really care if they knew I was going to hit or not.
0-2. Sidearm, mean strike 3 call. That came from around the corner.
That's what he does. He sidearms you, makes you give, and lives on that outside corner. And then if you get too close, he'll push you back, but he doesn't like to throw that many inside strikes.
So Mike Davis will come up now, one former Oakland A, to hit for another.
Now, Davis had been with Oakland, and he'd been a 20 home run man, but he had a very bad year for the Dodgers, hit just 196 that year, and only 106 over the last 6 weeks of the season. But I'm wondering whether Eckersley remembered the Mike Davis from Oakland and was more careful with him than he had to be.
You know, he's just being careful. You can see he's just keeping the ball away. He doesn't want him to hit it out of the park.
But that's off the plate. Fastball, ball 2, 2-1.
Do you think maybe Eckersley doesn't think you're going to bat, so he figures Davis can hurt me more readily than Anderson, so I'll be extra careful?
Yeah, it's possible. You know, as you look at sometimes decoys, people try to decoy people in baseball games. Maybe they saw me sitting over there but said maybe he's not going to hit. I really don't know.
3-1. And he walked it. And look who's coming up. And with 2 out, you talk about a roll of the dice. This is it. So the Dodgers trying to catch lightning right now.
And it was just a very exciting moment right now. You know, people ask me, did you feel like a lot of pressure, or were you nervous? And you know, you don't get nervous. This is what you play for right here. I put a couple things of pine tar on there. There's already a lot of pine tar, and this is just very, very exciting.
You talk about a roll of the dice, and that's really what it was.
Yeah, no question about it. I probably had no business up there. But again, my teammates had counted on me in certain situations throughout the year. We counted on each other. That's why we got to where we were right here. And that's why, you know, I said I got to go up there, and they want to see what I can do. And I wanted to see what I could do, and the fans wanted to see what I could do. And that's why I'm there.
All right, let's watch the entire at-bat, pitch for pitch, after this break. Coming right back with game number 10 on the countdown.
All year long, they looked to him to light the fire. And all year long, he answered the demands until he was physically unable to start tonight with 2 bad legs. But if he hits the ball on the ground, I would imagine he would be running 50% to first base. So the Dodgers trying to catch lightning right now.
So here it is now, bottom of the 9th, 2 out, Mike Davis at first base, A's up 4-3, Eckersley on the mound, you're pinch hitting for Alejandro Pena. Everybody in the ballpark's watching you, but what about your wife? Hadn't you called her earlier and said, honey, forget it, you might as well go home?
Yeah, actually, I'd told her, I called her down to the clubhouse door and said, you know, I'm not going to play tonight. You know, why don't you just go home? She had my little boy, Kirk Robert. He was only 2 years old at the time, and he's a little finicky at times. So, yeah, she had exited the ballpark, and here I am.
Fouled away.
You can see right there the first swing wasn't real pretty. I let her go, but it's my base right there. It's not good.
4-3 A's. 2 out, 9th inning. Not a bad opening act. 0-1. Fouled away again.
That hurt. Now we're just, you know, we're 0-2, and here I am going into full emergency. If you'll notice right here, I just really spread out. I got those hands really in tight to my chest, and then I kind of ducked down, and that's what I call full emergency. It's just a short stroke right here.
Foul.
He's not driving that ball. It was by him. Let's see. He's really he almost has to talk to his legs and say, hey, let's go. We got to get out of here.
It's 0-2, and I'm just thinking about fouling balls off. Fortunately, I live for another swing.
0-2 to Gibson. Ball 1. And a throw down to first. Davis just did get back. Good play by Ron Hasse using Gibson as a screen. He took a shot at the runner, and Mike Davis didn't see it for that split second, and that made it close. 2-2.
There you see, just kind of letting the ball get deep right here, just fouling it off, a couple souvenirs.
There he goes, way outside. He's stolen it.
Not a bad pitch to handle for Hasse outside. Now watch when he starts to throw. Look at Gibson.
With 2 out. Now the Dodgers don't need the muscle of Gibson as much as a base hit.
Somewhere along that bat here, I remember what Mel Diddy had told me about, he said, partner, if Eckersley gets to you 3-2, he's going to throw you a 3-2 backdoor slider. Yeah, you'll see. I called timeout right here. I'm saying it sure as I'm standing here breathing, partner. You're going to get that 3-2 backdoor slider.
But the game right now is at the plate. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
Pretty good feeling right here. Throughout my career, I had a lot of people that were critical of me, and I told my mom and dad many times it really hurt them, and I say, hey, you don't have to respond to that. We'll have our day, and here it is right here. This is just a good time right here, and just to see the faces of everybody. I remember the crowd, and I can't even imagine to tell you how it feels to be able to come through in a moment like this on such a huge game, and then in the end to realize what it is in the part of history of the great game of baseball, and then how it influenced really the whole rest of the series. We were fortunate to have a lot of good players. People maybe underestimated with that team, just the composition of the team, how good we really were, and fortunately in the end we won out in that series.
Well, Kirk, you talk about the history of the game. Obviously, this is one of the most historic home runs that have ever been hit in this game. How soon did you realize just how big it was historically?
I think over time it's come on to it's kind of the personality of what it really means is come out on every day, and trust me, all you fans out there, I'm honored to be the guy who did it, and I'm not really sure why it was me, but I've worked hard throughout my career, and it's kind of who I saw myself as being. I can remember standing in Yankee Stadium, people burying me on the on-deck circle, striking out, they get on me, strike out again, they get on me, making air in the outfield, get on me. Always when I was in the on-deck circle, I was thinking, okay, you guys, you just keep snickering at me because this game isn't over yet, and maybe that fourth or fifth at bat, I'm going to get you. And I remember a game where I got him and we had the game winner, and I walked around and they kind of got quiet. And I was never a guy to come back and gloat. My parents always taught me to react through, your actions and through your performance, and that's kind of the tack that I've always taken, and I would encourage anybody to do the same.
Eckersley had thrown 17 straight fastballs in the inning, all fastballs to you. Now, you remembered what Didier had said, but in a sense, if Eckersley was ever going to go away from that pattern of 3-2 backdoor slider, this was the situation because you were not 100% Kirk Gibson. You probably couldn't get fully around on a good heater.
Yeah, you'd have to ask Dennis exactly what was going through his mind, but I was fouling a lot of fastballs off, and I guess he'd missed with several fastballs on the outside part of the plate, and I sometimes when I watch this, I think the great career that Dennis had gets washed over here. Let's not forget this guy's in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's a tribute to him. This could ruin a lot of guys' careers, and all Dennis Eckersley did was went on and finish out a great Hall of Fame career. And I've really enjoyed competing against him all those years. This was two great competitors against each other. I won out in this one, but overall, I think we've both had a great place in baseball history.
Dennis had kind of a lingo all his own, and some people say he's the guy who coined the phrase walk-off, but he meant it the other way. I'll walk off after closing the deal, getting the save, I'll walk off. This time, you didn't exactly walk off, you hobbled off, but you got the job done.
Yeah, but you play this game long enough, you're not going to be successful all the time. You're going to be, maybe you'll get on a little roll, but somebody will bring you down to school. And again, Dennis, right there, a tribute to him and the character he has is the way he finished his career after that. That was a pretty big blow, and he did a great job from that point on, and I tip my hat to him.
Well, Kirk, I think you wore out Dennis in that at-bat with those fastballs. In fact, he later said it was stupid to throw a breaking ball, but he thought maybe you'd pull off it. He'd try something different at that point. My question for you is, you guys are linked now and have been for years throughout history. Have you shared moments with Eck and talking about that pitch that night?
We have. John Lowe got us together probably, I don't know, maybe it was 5 to 10 years after that. We sat down and did a little thing, and we talked it out together. We've made a couple of appearances together, and of course we crossed paths in baseball, and he knows I respect him, and I know he respects me, and I've been on the other end of the, like he was, and it's just baseball, and you just have to overcome those things. You have to keep grinding ahead, and you can't let failure deter your future successes.
We asked you to come on the field or back on the field for an interview. You said, sure, but first I got to go back in and address my teammates, talk about the fruits of victory. Then you came back out, and here's a glimpse at the post-game interview.
Kirk Gibson, have you ever had a feeling like this?
Well, it's hard to match, I'll say that. And, it's, I guess, a storybook. I was very disappointed today because I knew I couldn't play. I knew I'd be a detriment, and I got an injection today, and I was very sore, but I saw the opportunity. I knew if we could get a guy on base, the pitcher was coming up, and I figured if I got out there and the fans started cheering, that I could suck it up for 1 AB and maybe something good would happen, and it happened.
It's a couple of things very quickly. All arms, flat-footed in the condition you were in, and yet as soon as you hit it, you knew it was gone. Don't you still marvel to this day, that swing in that condition, producing that home run?
Yeah, that was an ugly one, actually. Ugly swing, but, if you watch, just, you just need to strike the baseball properly, all wrist and hands, put backspin on the ball. It carried out. Fortunately, I do have some physical and athletic ability, and I was able to put the sweet spot of the bat on the ball. I look at that picture right there, and nice hairdo, nice mustache. But if you look at, if you think about that, I bet that was 10 or 15 minutes after I hit the home run. I don't think anybody had left their seat that happened. And that was just a great time, great moment. And I remember the next night, I think you guys did an opening to the Natural. Yep. So it certainly helped us with momentum, and tribute to all my teammates. I didn't have another at bat in that series. Tribute to my teammates that the job that they did, and the Mickey Hatcher came in, and Mike Scioscia, and Oral Hershiser, and Alfredo, and Stevie Sachs, and on and on and on. We were the underdogs. We believed in ourselves. Tommy was masterful in making us believe in ourselves, and we were rewarded with the World Championship.
Kirk, thanks for reliving one of the great moments in baseball history with us.
Anytime, always a pleasure.
All right. One of the things, Tom, that memorializes this, obviously Kirk did it, but Vin Scully's call on television and Jack Buck's call on radio helps to fix that eternally in baseball history, don't you think?
Great moment that were captured perfectly.
Well, that's the way we'll go off. You heard Vin Scully's call. Jack Buck on the radio side couldn't believe what he just saw. That's game number 10 on the countdown.
We have a big 3-2 pitch coming here from Eckersley. Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson. And the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just